AskMen by New Classroom 2701. What hobby gets more expensive as you go? I like woodworking, bought the tools, Japanese hand tools. Couldn't afford the wood. Buy good used furniture off Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, then tear it apart. The armoires in particular have a lot of wood in them. Beware the ones that use cheap MDF cardboard backing. Photography, filmmaking. Lenses. Never on sale and always hold value if you maintain them. Warhammer. I went from an innocent interest in video games to 8 boxes full of my miniatures I painted myself. Plastic crack is real. Guitars. Music in general. Even VST plugins or analog synths can be expensive as hell. Lego. Any particular sets, person of culture? All of them, because you eventually need to move from entry-level tools to better ones. I've been playing disc golf for 6-8 years and have purchased a grand total of 3 used discs. Cars. I'd be better off financially and socially if I had a Coke edition, lol. Making music. You can start off with a cheap instrument and practice, but when you start wanting to record, then you need microphones, doors, and so on. Yes. I started with just a guitar, now it's 7 guitars, 2 keyboards, a drum machine, studio monitors, microphones, software. Magic cards, model trains, video games, skiing, girlfriends. I don't find video games very expensive, big upfront cost of buying a console, but the continued cost is just a game every now and then. Not like other hobbies where the price scales up as you go from cheap entry-level gear to more expensive higher-end stuff. This made me realize that hiking is probably the cheapest hobby out there. Until you eat shit on a mountain you weren't ready for. PC building and guitar playing. Pretty much all of them. Your favorites? Working out as an introvert. Making a home gym gets real expensive real fucking fast. This is a huge thing for me. If I don't have someone to push my lazy ass, I ain't gonna do it. However, meeting someone in person, gonna take me 3 to 6 months just to feel comfortable with the person. And where in my house am I fitting home gym equipment? Photography. Yeah, definitely. I have been guilty of telling people in the past that you can get started with fairly cheap gear, but is £500 really cheap? Depends who you ask, I suppose. After a while you're going to realize the limitations of your gear. Especially if you get into stuff like astrophotography. Photography gets expensive fast, but I still really enjoy it, so to me it's worth it. Bodybuilding. Starts with protein powder, middles with pegs, ends with expensive surgeries to fix your organs. If natural, then the end game is a home gym. Blow. Collecting vinyl records. Firearms. The biggest problem with firearms is everyone starts off buying something cheap to learn the ins and outs, and then you start to realize that you get what you pay for, and then things get out of hand. It becomes an obsession, and there is always one more that you need to complete the collection. That, along with mods and upgrades, just like any other hobby. Comic book collecting. How do you track the stuff you read? I haven't been able to find a good app to track my reads. Also, better if it can show the timeline of the particular comic series I'm reading to make it easier for me to figure out the next issue story. My favorite hobby right now is staying alive, but goddamn it gets expensive. Golf. You and me both, man. Just got some new irons and lessons after playing 20 years. The wife is like, where is money going, lol. Watches. I used to think my Apple Watch was expensive. Now I have a Hamilton, which is considered cheap by the standards of the hobby, among the cheapest brands for serious hobbyists, and it easily costs twice as much as my Apple Watch. And the watches I'm eyeing cost in the 5-figure range. Sex with escorts. Facts. Fly fishing. Just getting into fly fishing this year and it is already pretty expensive. Sneakers. Horse riding. Ain't that the truth? My wife and I have 2 horses and 2 small ponies, and I swear they have set our retirement back by 10 years. Piano violin. Babies. The next one gets cheaper because hand-me-downs lol. Also gives you the same tax deduction. Strip clubs. It may feel good, but it isn't very satisfying. Gun enthusiast. Metal working. You start with cheap tools, upgrade to nicer tools, and then go on to buy more expensive specialized tools. While the older tools you have become worth less and less as more and more of them are made. Car restoration. Tools are cheap at first, but the more expensive tools are generally better, and then you gotta get the parts. Any modifications like performance upgrades are crazy expensive. I'll go out on a limb and say that most hobbies get more expensive as you go, if you can afford it. There's always that next thing that you want, or to help you do something better. I was going to say that exercise hobbies have a limit, but then I remembered that people hire coaches and build things that require real estate. None of them have to get more expensive though. You can set a limit. I have an expensive hobby that many people spend millions on. I have found ways to do it for next to nothing. Dating. Motorsports. The faster and more competitive you want to be, the more expensive it gets. Everything related to music. Instruments, audio equipment, physical media. All of them. Agreed. Almost every hobby has that if I only bought this and that, X would be a lot better, easier aspect. I got into winemaking and so far, I've only spent €100, but as I start making more and more wine, those automatic fermentation vessels with all the measuring tools start to be more and more tempting, lol, and that shit is expensive as hell. Fragrance. Smoking meat. VR racing and iRacing. Fuck. Music. Guitars start off as £100 minus £150 second-hand Gibsons, but after a couple years you're trying to rationally explain why you need a £2,000 Rickenbacker bass to go with your 15 other instruments. Literally everything. Even running costs a lot if you're going long distance. I've been playing the same video game for the past 9 years, and in all this time, I've spent the same amount of money, $0. Guns. Literally money sinks. And so much fun. Classic cars. Mission creep is real, and boy does it get expensive. Saltwater fish tank. Pretty much all of them. Vinyl. Drugs. Cocaine. Literally every hobby. Working out, the bigger you get the more protein you need. Then you need drugs like steroids, then drugs to fix your penis, and OHH man does it spiral. Fishing. Drugs. Invading Ukraine. Modifying cars. My FRS has costed a little over 40k, nearly 20k in mods, wheels, tires, brakes, maintenance, then I paid 20k for car. Writing can get expensive fast. First it's pen and paper, and then you start going through pens. So you buy nicer pens that you can refill, or you get into fountain pens, and that's a whole rabbit hole by itself. and then you have to type it all up, and Word is okay. But Docs checks for things Word doesn't, and Grammarly checks for other things. But to get the better suggestions you have to subscribe, and then you get tired of seeing squiggles and lines under your type. So you buy a typewriter so you can type without the squiggles, and in case of power outages, and it's portable, so you can take it places, but you have to buy ribbons and get maintenance done on it, which means you have to ship it somewhere because there's almost certainly not a typewriter repair shop nearby, so that's a whole thing unto itself. And then you want to get better with the actual craft part, so you look at help books and classes and stuff, and none of that is free. Or you hear the best way to be a better writer is to read, so you start buying books and reading, and that costs time and money. But you know what, you love all of it anyway, because, at the end of the day, you've created something you can share with other people. Mechanical keyboards. Looking to make that sweet and elusive endgame. Adulthood. Welding. Photography. Cycling, motorcycling, road cycling, mountain biking and trail riding. As the old adage goes, tits or tires. Reef keeping. Card collecting. Having a sugar baby. I play social tennis. When I started I was playing in sneakers and a borrowed racket. I now have a $350 racket, tennis shoes, back, clothing, balls, OMG so many balls, and of course weekly club fees. Love it though.